Happiness through curiosity on the Ranveer Show. Welcome to TRS Clips. When I meet a Fauji,
Yeah.
there's always a moment of intimidation in my heart for the first 5-10 seconds. Maybe it's partially because you guys are so observant. It's
Yeah.
partially because I know what badasses y'all are because of the conversations. And there's a part of me that automatically tells me that this is someone who is, sorry to use this word, but you guys are machines, like in certain ways. I would not want to be your opponent. Which, when I put myself in the shoes of a pirate or someone who's messing around anywhere, don't they have fear in their hearts about you guys?
Obviously, they have. And not only about special forces, about the Indian armed forces, or for that matter, armed forces of any country. And I again admit, not that I'm a retired veteran now, but I feel that we are Indian armed forces people are the most trained. And they have taken on and they proved themselves, they proved their mettle everywhere in all warfare.
Do you see these guys messing up in combat situations just out of fear and nervousness?
See, very frankly, not that the terrorists are trained, but see, they have got certain amount of motivation level because they are young. And they can be, the minds can be subverted.
How young?
I mean, you can have a terrorist who's 18, 19, 20 years old. And they are promised a lot of things by the other side and then they're pumped into the country. And as per the statistics, the average life of a terrorist who gets into India is not more than 1 year. So within 1 year, he's hunted and he's shot by the Indian security forces. So that is the statistics. But then they are promised moon. There was a movie called Hotel Mumbai.
Yeah.
Recently about Taj. Now, that was one of the movies which I found was very close, was realistically shot. In that movie, there is one scene where one of the terrorists who's got shot in his leg, incidentally was shot by the Marcos. They didn't show in the movie, but we were the first guy to enter inside and do a firefight with the terrorists. And that is the only time when people in Mumbai came to know that it is not a Gavli versus D gang war. It is actually terrorists who got inside and started killing people.
Yeah.
So he says he's talking to his father. And then he also asked, have you got the money which was promised by these handlers? He said no. So which means that they've been cheated. So you'll find youngsters who are jobless, who are in jail, they are promised the moon and all those, you'll encounter so many thousands of virgins when you go to the other land, all those things they are told. So they get motivated, youngsters, jobless, they want to do something. And again, they are baptized by a lot of religious teachings and all, and they land up in this. Who wants to die? Nobody wants to die. And a human being is not made to die. Human being is made for two purposes in the world. As far as Sadhguru says, it's for procreation and for seeking happiness. This third thing is not there only. So nobody intentionally want to die. It's people who subvert the mind. Then they come to die. Now, when these people are coming, they know that they'll encounter security forces. They know that the moment they're caught, there's a last day of their life or last moment of their life. They know all these things. But they're under a tremendous amount of pressure. Pressure of the preaching they get and also the pressure of sustaining the family behind. Most of the people are from very, very poor families and they have to eke out a living. So this is one method. Coming to your other question that anybody else messing around with the armed forces? Yes, nobody wants to mess around with the armed forces. Because if you mess around with the armed forces, it's like a criminal doesn't want to dodge a police because he knows he cannot dodge for long. He will be hunted down.
Are there terrorists in the open seas right now as we speak?
Yes, there are pirates and there is something called a sea robbery which happens. So there are classification of, so that's why it's called low intensity maritime operations.
It's different from piracy?
Piracy, yes. Like for example, there are people who come on board when the ship is at anchorage, outer anchorage, and smuggle goods and by connivance of the people or even otherwise they smuggle goods and all this things happen. So that's called sea robbery. It's not piracy, but it's sea robbery. It's obviously something which one has to get wary of. It does happen.
Which country do the robbers belong
to? See, now it happens more in areas like even Bangladesh, and it happens in Myanmar. Not Myanmar. It happens in Indonesia and all this kind of countries happens.
And they're forced to do that out of poverty?
Out of poverty. Everybody was, anybody who's indulging into all this kind of course, their leaders are like warlords of Somalia. They are the moneyed people. They can actually swing things. But the people who are executing on ground are very poor people.
Thank you for watching this clip. If you want to learn more about this topic, we've curated a playlist just for you, and here's a link to the whole episode.